You're listening to Mind the Gap, the podcast that explores how we think, feel, and live with a little help from Stoicism, emotional intelligence, and the honest human stories that bind us together. In this episode, Michael looks at what it means to feel lonely even when our pockets buzz and screens light up, when the phone doesn't ring, and silence weighs heavier than noise. Here's Michael.
A listener messaged me after our last episode about always being contactable. They wrote, "My phone doesn't ring. I'm surrounded by people all day, but I feel invisible." That struck me because it's more common than we admit. We're constantly within reach, reachable by email, by text, by messaging app. And yet, so many tell me they feel unseen. The phone is there, but it stays silent. The inbox refreshes, but there's nothing we really want to read. Notifications come through, but they're shallow echoes, nothing that says, "I see you, I'm thinking of you, and you matter." Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm rarely lonely. If anything, I crave alone time more often than I get it. Now, that might sound strange in an episode about loneliness, but I share this for this reason. My craving for solitude does not cancel the reality that for others, that same solitude is painful. One person's treasured quiet is another's heavy silence. And loneliness doesn't always look the same for everyone. Some people are alone but never lonely. Others are surrounded by family, colleagues, or strangers in a cafe, yet feel completely unseen. The difference is connection, not contact. Let's think about it. Modern loneliness has its roots in paradox. We're the most connected generation in history. Devices in our pockets, video calls across continents, groups, networks, instant messaging. But real connection seems rarer than ever. I think back to Seneca, who wrote, "We are never so alone as when we are surrounded by others who do not see us." It's a line I come back to often. I've felt it too, standing in a crowded room, the noise of conversation swirling around, but feeling that strange bubble that keeps you just slightly out of reach. You nod, you smile, you join in, but underneath you wonder, if I slipped out quietly, would anyone notice? This feeling doesn't care about age, gender, or relationship status, but how we experience loneliness does. Many people reach a certain age where the circle gets smaller. Children grow up. Partners pass away or drift apart, and friends move. The older we get, the more we notice the gaps. For men especially, studies have shown that friendship can wane over time, replaced by busyness, routine, or pride that says, "I don't want to bother anyone." Women can carry a different burden, often the social glue, the connectors in families and in communities, but when caregiving roles shift or end, that network can shrink too. And there's relationship status. We assume people in relationships aren't lonely, but that's not true either. Some of the loneliest people I've met are in marriages or partnerships where they feel deeply unheard. So, loneliness can visit anyone. And yet, as Stoicism reminds us, and modern psychology confirms, we do have some say in how we hold that feeling. Epictetus, who always brings us back to what we can control, said, "Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and you'll find peace." In other words, wishing the phone would ring doesn't make it ring, but we can change how we interpret its silence, and we can decide what to do next. Modern psychology tells us that loneliness is a signal, a bit like hunger. It's our brain's way of saying, you need connection. And just as we don't expect food to appear without effort, we can't always expect meaningful connection to land in our laps. Sometimes we have to go to it. This is where emotional intelligence helps, the self-awareness to admit, I feel disconnected, the self-regard to believe, I'm worthy of connection, and the courage to reach out. But that's the sticking point, isn't it? Reaching out can feel awkward. We fear looking needy or worse, being rejected. We worry we're interrupting someone. So we wait, and so does the other person. Ausonius Rufus reminds us that the strength of our character is shown not just in our grand actions, but in small daily acts. A message sent, a coffee arranged, a walk suggested, small bridges that remind us we matter to someone and they matter to us. I've always believed this. One real conversation can do more good for the soul than 1,000 polite thumbs up. And here's the thing. Real conversations often require real vulnerability. That's uncomfortable. It means we risk being seen in our rawness. But it's the risk that makes connection possible. It helps to remember that not everyone sees silence the same way. A phone that doesn't ring isn't always a rejection. It's often a reflection of others' busyness, their own hidden struggles, or the same fear of reaching out first. Sometimes people pull back because they too are afraid, or tired, or uncertain. Your small gesture can be the hand that pulls them back to the surface. And yet, there's also a place for solitude. I said earlier, I crave alone time, and I do. It's where I recharge, reflect, and reset. Solitude, when chosen, can be powerful. Viktor Frankl, who knew the depths of isolation, wrote, "The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause, to serve, or another person to love, the more human he is and the more he actualizes himself." Sometimes the phone doesn't ring because it can't. People are busy and they don't know what you're going through, or they've drifted. In that quiet, we can ask, what do I need now, and how can I give that to myself first? There's a difference between chosen solitude and unwanted loneliness. Solitude can feed the soul. A walk alone, a cup of tea with your own thoughts, a good book as company. But when the silence grows sharp, that's when we know it's time to seek connection outside of ourselves too. So, if you're listening to this and you feel that ache, that nobody quite knows you're there, I invite you to do something brave. Send a friend a message. Pick up the phone. Make a call. Suggest a walk. Drop by, but do call first, even if it feels clumsy. Even if your voice shakes, that's how doors open. And if you're someone who's not lonely, like me, often craving the opposite, maybe today's reminder is this: check in on someone who might be. Reach out to that person whose name flickered across your mind this week. The friend who's quieter lately. The neighbour you wave at but never stop to talk to. The relative who lives alone. Loneliness is part of being human, but so is the power to lessen it for ourselves and for each other. I'll leave you with this. Stoicism doesn't pretend we don't need people. The Stoics were deeply aware of our social nature. They just remind us to hold lightly what we cannot control, namely how others respond, and to hold firmly what we can, our willingness to try again. So this week, whether your phone stays silent or buzzes non-stop, may you find one moment of real connection. A conversation that lingers, a shared laugh that surprises you, a message that reminds you you're thought of, and one that you send to remind someone else. And if the ache is too deep and you feel it's pulling you under, please know there's no shame in asking for help from a friend, a mentor, or a professional. That too is a connection. I'll say it again. I'm rarely lonely and I sometimes guard my quiet time fiercely, but I never take for granted that not everyone feels the same about peace and silence. We each hold the same need, to be seen, to be heard, and to matter. Thank you for letting me in your ear today. I hope you find somewhere in the noise and the hush the connection you need. And mind the loneliness gap.
You've been listening to Mind the Gap with Michael Common. In this episode, Michael explored the quiet ache of loneliness in a world of constant connection, reminding us that reaching out, even when it feels uncomfortable, can be the first step toward genuine human connection. If you found this episode meaningful, share it with a friend or leave a review to help others discover Mind the Gap. Join us next time as we continue to explore how Stoicism, emotional intelligence, and timeless wisdom can guide us through the challenges of modern life. Until then, thank you for listening.